Good afternoon, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for Suburban Panel 2. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances to the zoning requirements and consents to sever land. Our hearings are now in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centrepoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for our registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube, and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is Fabien Poulin. I'll be chairing today's hearings, and you can address me by my name or as chair. And with me are my fellow panel members, Jay Baltz, George Barrett, and Julianne Wright. The procedure for the hearings will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. For the sake of efficiency, I may deal with agenda items in a different order. Panel members reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or opposition to each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing. They also had to confirm in writing that they did so, or they'll need to swear or affirm an oath today that they've fulfilled the sign posting requirements. Otherwise, we may have to adjourn or postpone the hearing. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application followed by questions for the applicant and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak. We may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant, who has the burden of proof, will have an opportunity to make a final comment in reply. Please address your comments to me as the chair, starting with your name and spelling it if necessary, and your municipal address for the record. All presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it won't be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decision and reasons for it to all parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure we'll be following today? No questions, thank you. We have several applications to hear today, but first need to deal with some preliminary procedural matters. Are there any declarations of interest by panel members for any of the applications? No declarations of interest. We have 2 minutes to confirm, and I'd like to ask the panel if they would confirm the minutes of June the 3rd. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And of June 17. I was not present at that meeting, so I'll ask the other panel members if they would approve those minutes. Those minutes are approved. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda are the applications that would like to have be adjourned. And we have 3 today. The first has to do with application number 8. Having to do with 94 Willow Glen Drive. I'm looking for D. Keene. Come on down. Could you please state your name and you just need to give us your last name and your address, sir. Thank you. The reason we've asked you down here today about for the adjournment request is because I guess there was an error made in the amount of variance required on one of your variances. And I can read it to you so that you understand which one it is. The applicant seek the committee's authorization for a minor variance from the zoning bylaw to permit a reduced rear yard setback of 5.8 meters. And this is where the rub comes. Where the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters, but you had on your circulation of 7 meters. So when there's a change of substance like this, the application has to be recirculated. So to that end, I'm going to ask the panel if they would like to adjourn this application, sine die for you to have the opportunity to recirculate this, this request for a minor variance.
I understand your concern. Let me just explain the circumstances of that. After speaking with the DIO, I had looked up on using the city of Ottawa's geo mapping, and I had incorrectly used a bylaw which has not passed yet. So I had used the 7.0 meters, and that was on my initial application. When it was pointed out to me by the planner who had reviewed it, I updated the application and the supporting documentation within a day and resubmitted it. Whether that was actually added to the online documentation or not, I don't know.
Well, the issue is that what was circulated to the public within 60 meters of your property was the 7.0 number, not the 7.5.
Okay.
And regretfully, it has to be recirculated because the variance changed. Okay, so to that end, I'd like to ask the panel if they'd like to adjourn this application sine die. All those in favor, please raise your hands. So your application is adjourned sine die, sir. So you'll have to recirculate the information to your neighbors.
Okay.
Okay.
So my question is, do I need to resubmit anything, or because I have resubmitted the information?
Well, I think that our staff,
Okay.
I'll ask the Deputy Secretary Treasurer what the next process, how the process will work.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you can get in contact with committee staff and we'll walk you through the next steps of the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next application up for adjournment is application number 10, having to do with 11 St. Clair. And I'm looking for Hussein Al-Dahan. Is he online, Madam Secretary?
No, Mr. Chair, we don't see him. If he could raise his hand, we'll add him into the meeting. I'm not seeing him.
Okay, we'll step this one down and we'll move on to the next adjournment request. The next one is having to do with application number 11, 15 Deerfox Road. And I'm looking for Jeff Kelly.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon. I understand that you're in agreement with the adjournment request?
We are prepared to proceed today if the panel would like to do so, but we are in agreement if that's the direction you're looking to move.
Okay, so I'd like to ask the planner if they do they have everything they need to proceed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have everything we need to proceed.
Okay, so we'll step that down and we'll move it to.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interrupt.
Sure.
We have an issue with the circulation for
Okay,
that item because we're adding additional land. The 60-meter radius has changed.
okay, so this is similar to the previous application. You're gonna have to recirculate it, so we're gonna have to adjourn it sine die.
Understood.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning this application sine die, please raise your hands. Your application is adjourned sine die, sir. Thank you. Have we found Mr. Al-Dahan?
No, we have not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll step that down and we'll proceed in order then. Our next,
Mr. Chair, is that necessary? Do we have to wait?
we have a full hearing and they have the opportunity, I guess, to come into the hearing,
To the hearing itself? Okay.
to the hearing itself. So we'll wait until the end of the,
We are going to reach out to him now and see if he can join the meeting.
okay, but we won't delay things. We'll continue on. We have unopposed list of applications. And to that end, I would like to let you know what the criteria is for an unopposed application and to be on the fast track agenda. To qualify, you have to have no application, no objections or concerns from the parties, that is the applicant, city, or the public. There are no amendments required, no registered speakers. Signposting declaration has been received. The applicant or their agent has confirmed that they agree with all the requested conditions, if any. No question, and there are no questions from the panelists. Our first application on this unopposed agenda is application number 1, having to do with 982 Watson Street. All those in favor of approving this application, please raise your hands. That application has been approved. item number 4, 2181 Quinn Crescent. And I'd like to ask the panel if there are anyone who would like to approve this.
Mr. Chair, we do have someone online with their hand up, so I'm going to add them into the meeting.
Okay.
The participant is labeled online as 151. If they could unmute their microphone.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. 151.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can now, yep.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand on the Deerfox application. I have submitted an email basically in behalf of my neighbors as well. And same, we're on Kearney Drive. My last name is Amru on 14. With me is Mr. Kbasi on 12. I also talked to neighbors at 10, 6, and 8. And we basically have some objection. My understanding is are we adjourning for a next meeting or are you approving the application?
We have an adjournment request. We have
Okay.
not spoken to the agent as yet. He
Okay.
has not come online.
Mr. Chair, he's referring to Deerfox, Sine Die.
Oh, I see, okay. So we've adjourned that to sine die, so it will be recirculated because there has been some issues with
Excellent.
the information provided to you.
Okay.
And so it'll be rescheduled for another time once that information's been received.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Sorry for interruption. I just want to be clear because we're not sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We do also have another person with their hand up, Murray Chown from Novatech.
Mr. Chown? Mr. Chown, are you there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that we will be reaching out to the residents on Tierney Crescent. So I just wanted to close the loop on that discussion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so that had to do with Deerfox Crescent. So we're still at 2181 Quinn Crescent. Are there any objections to this application being on the unopposed list and being approved today? Therefore, I'll ask the panel, all those in favor of approval of this application, please raise your hands. Your application has been approved. Next item on the list is item number 5, 1501 March Valley Drive. Is there anyone here or online that would like to oppose this application? I'd like to ask the panel, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Application has been approved. Next item is item 6, 7 Roche Place. Anyone online or in chambers here that would like to oppose this application? No one opposed? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Application has been approved. Item number 7 is the next item. This has to do with 2128 Trim Road. Anyone online or in the chambers like to oppose this application? No one opposing the application. Panel, do you approve this application? Application has been approved. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the items in order. The first item we'll deal with is application number 2, having to do with 14 Colonnade Road.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and your address, sir?
My name is Evan Saunders of Foten Planning and Design. Our address is 420 O'Connor Street.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to give us a brief description of your application.
Absolutely. Our application is for a consent to sever in order to sever an existing commercial property with 2 existing office buildings in order to create 2 separately conveyable parcels. It's a rather straightforward application, but we had reached out to the coordinator and staff prior to the hearing to discuss a request to remove condition number 3 of the staff report.
Okay. So you agree with all other conditions?
Yes, we concur with conditions 1 and 2. It's just condition 3.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to go to planning staff and ask them the reason for condition number 3.
I think the reason for condition number 3 is they're asking for remove noise register on title. And often we are looking forward to have this condition when we are looking into residential uses, but they're using for office uses. And this clause is imposed because of our official plan where requires environmental noise control.
Okay. And why would you object to that, sir?
So in our opinion, looking at the condition and the nature of the application, as I said, it's relatively simple and relatively benign, but in our opinion, it seems somewhat unnecessary and onerous on the owner as the condition requires development agreements with the city. And as mentioned, generally these environmental noise controls, which is spoken to in section 10 of the official plan and is guided by municipal and provincial noise guidelines. Those broadly, they largely speak to residential and what they note as noise sensitive land uses, protecting them from sources of these noises. But in our cases, as I mentioned, these are 2 existing office uses. And through this application, we're not presenting any, beyond the severance, any material changes to the context of the environment. And we believe this is an additional this is rather onerous on the owner in order to pursue the severance, and this will not result in any material changes to the properties as they'll continue to function as they currently do. I can speak further to the official plan policies and guidelines as well as some of the context if you'd like. But
It's up to you.
sure. So we had spoken with staff yesterday, and as mentioned, a lot of this guidance comes from the official plan policies of section 10. And as mentioned, there are policies that speak to noise control, but there's no specific policy that requires the notice or covenant as a result of this application or similar. And while there's no policy, they do speak broadly to or they speak specifically to the city's environmental control guidelines, which take guidance from the province. And both of these sets of guidelines, as I mentioned, speak to noise sensitive land uses and protecting those from sources of noise. And we believe that in our case, we are meeting the intent of this as the office use is relatively insensitive to sources of noise. And for context, the noise sources that we're speaking to are collector roads and a railway located approximately 140 to 170 meters to the south, separated by a hydro corridor and some recreational fields. And the collector roads are Colonnade Road and Colonnade Road South, which directly abut the property. In our opinion, we're meeting the intent as I mentioned, these are relatively insensitive, and it's also worth noting that the existing designation on the site, mixed industrial in the zoning, IG4 or general industrial, permits for even higher intensity industrial or light industrial or commercial uses on the site. And we believe that this notice would, as no further sensitive uses are permitted on the site, we believe that this is unnecessary and doesn't protect any other greater uses with greater sensitivities. And another item I just also wanted to point to was there was a previous severance application in 2020 on the property. I spoke to it in the cover letter. And this application severed, if you know the site, there's 8 Colonnade, which is immediately to the west. At some point in the past, these 2 properties had merged, and in 2020, a severance application was applied for, approved, and then finalized over the past few years, allowing for the severance to take place. And as a result of that severance, there was no condition speaking to a notice on title related to noise. And in saying this, in terms of the policy context, while the official plan had changed, the city's municipal environmental noise control guidelines and the provincial noise control guidelines established in 2016 and 2013 respectively have not changed since then. So legislatively, we're speaking from we're at a relatively similar place, and we believe that a similar sort of guidance should be placed in our case, recognizing that no 2 applications are the same. We see it as a relatively similar context involving, in this case, the same site.
Okay, thank you. Does the panel have any questions, Mr. Barrett? Ms. Reddick? No? Okay, Mr. Baltz.
May I address staff?
Sure.
Okay. So the question of what is considered a sensitive use, is an office building a sensitive use or not?
I think, sorry, just give me a second.
If you don't mind, having looked at it recently in the environmental noise control guidelines from the city and the province, it does generally and largely speak to residential uses, schools, daycares, even the more obvious sensitive uses. But these guidelines are relatively broad and they represent a framework. They do open it up to a larger array of land uses, stating that any use can be noise sensitive, but this is largely dependent on the source of noise being referred to. Obviously, lower degrees of noise, we'll call it for these purposes, noise pollution, wouldn't affect higher intensity commercial uses, whereas higher intensity noise sources would be considered for commercial uses potentially.
Okay. Well, still let Ms. Yang
Yeah.
answer the question.
Trying to get at consistency in city policy. So in general, is this being applied to office buildings elsewhere, or is this an unusual condition?
Well, so then the city policy follows the environmental noise guideline for the province. As the definition of the noise sensitive land use, it's defending by the proximity to the noise, for example, roads and railways. Most of the times that we put on these conditions to ensure that their development is not affected by the noise in the city. But we do see a lot of applications where there's residential uses this has been put down. I cannot speak of other application without reviewing other things. But I will say that as it is close to a railway transportation and a collective roads, that's the primary reason why it's put down as a condition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Wright, would you like to ask a question?
So through you, Mr. Chair, you seem to be objecting mostly to the fact that you have to enter into a development agreement. Can you not register something untitled without a development agreement? Like, is that possible?
Through you, Chair, yes, though I understand that the city has, I see Ms. O'Connell has joined the call, so she may be able to speak to this, and they may have a greater insight as to it. But from our perspective, yes, we can. Though I think going back to our original point, though that is a less onerous way of approaching this, we don't see the tangible benefit of including this as a condition of approval in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barrett, do you have a question?
Just a question through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant or the agent, just regarding is there a notice on file in the original when the building was built 30 years ago or whatever time frame it was? Was there any notice at that time?
Through you, Chair, not that I'm aware of. I don't have it. I don't want to speak too matter of fact to it, as I don't have it in front of me. But no, not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. My question would be, how long have these buildings been around?
Through you, Chair, from the aerial imagery that I was able to gather sometime in the late 70s to mid 80s was the construction of the Colonnade Business Park. So, and as I mentioned, the Colonnade Road and Colonnade Road South, they were all developed in somewhat rapid succession. So around that time, it depends on there's a gap in the imagery.
How successful were the owners of those properties at leasing out the office space? Did they find in the end that the noise was an issue?
Not that I'm aware of. Sure.
Okay.
Planner O'Connell has her hand up.
Does she? Okay. Ms. O'Connell, you'd like to add something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to assist staff, I think the provision of this or the request to include this condition is a fairly conservative approach from staff perspective on this particular land use. And I agree, we're very sympathetic to the fact that our process for development agreements is taking longer than we would like these days. And so I don't think staff would object to the committee either removing this condition necessarily or I do appreciate the member Wright's suggestion that we are looking into this potential solution to this issue of placing the notice on title without requesting that additional step for the development agreement to require the notice on title. But the reason why we do have that additional step for the agreement to ask for the notice on title is that a notice on title can be placed on the properties by the owner, as I understand it, and then can be removed following the consent application. And so that added step of the development agreement ensures that it's entered into with the city and is essentially promising the city that the notice on title will be in there forever and ever. But again, I'm sympathetic to the situation that this is an existing land use, and I do think it was a very conservative application in our request to include this condition.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Connell. Anybody have any questions for Ms. O'Connell? Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright? Mr. Baltz? No? Okay. So thank you very much for your presentation. I'd like to ask the planning staff if they have any comments to make with respect to the conversation we're having.
Sure. So, assessing the Walling class said that it is important to know that the land use, that although the development may not be considered noise sensitive, but we have to have regard to the employees who work in the office, in the sense that this is a condition that imposed by the city.
Okay. Any questions to planning, Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright? Yeah, Mr. Baltz? No, no further questions.
Mr. Chair, Krista Libman has her hand up. She's online.
Hello, Ms. Libman.
Hello, hi. I just wanted to say that I'm not actually sure that there is a mechanism to register the notice without an agreement.
Okay.
So I hesitate to get into a condition that we may not be able to fulfill. And what I've heard from Ms. O'Connell is that she would not object, or planning staff would not object if the condition were to be dropped.
Thank you. Okay, so no further questions of planning. And Mr. Saunders, you have the opportunity for the last word.
Thank you, Chair. So as discussed and as iterated through planning staff, Ms. O'Connell and Ms. Libman, thank you very much. This condition represents a relatively conservative approach, and as I mentioned, this is an existing development, and this application in general is relatively benign and simple. And through this application, we don't believe we're creating a circumstance in which a notice or a covenant on title prepared through a development agreement would provide any tangible benefit, and would rather further place great onus on the owner and would further complicate what could be a rather simple application. And so to conclude, we would just recommend the removal of that condition.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so I'd like to ask the panel if they'd like to reserve on this decision. Please raise your hands if you'd like to reserve. So we will be reserving, and we will let you know within 10 days of our decision. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if we could go back to the adjournment request for 11 St. Clair Avenue, we've been told that the agent is here in the room now.
So now we're moving back to 11 St. Clair. Is that correct, sir? Yeah. And can you state your name and your address, sir?
Hussein Eldahan, 11 St. Clair Avenue.
Okay. So the application is up for adjournment. Are you in agreement with that adjournment, sir?
Yes.
And we have as a date for the adjournment, August the 19th.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just go through a couple of other people before we get back to that point. I'd just like to see if we have one person from the public that was looking to speak, Nancy Wilson and Jill Trott from the City View Community Association. Are you available?
Yes, I am, Chair. We have no problem with the adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does planning staff have an issue with the adjournment request?
No, we don't, but we look forward to reviewing the materials and providing an updated report for committee.
And you're okay with August 19?
Of course.
Okay. So, Mr. Dehan, I'm going to ask the panel if they would like to adjourn this application till August the 19th. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hands. And your application has been adjourned to August the 19th. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're moving on to our next item, which is item number 3, 700 Coronation Avenue. And I'm looking for Matt McGilligan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon.
My name is Matthew McGilligan. I'm a principal at Foten Planning and Design. The address is 420 O'Connor Street.
Thank you very much. Would you like to make a brief description of your application?
I did provide a presentation if the committee would like a presentation. I did
You really
put that
got
together, so why not?
Okay.
But in essence, it's a relatively straightforward consent application. What we have here is a, oh, here we go. And we'll wait till it loads on your screen. But 700 Coronation is currently contains a 3-story, 31-unit apartment building with associated parking lot. And in fact, the parking lot is quite large, and the intention is to sever off a portion of that parking lot to construct eventually a 10-unit apartment building. There are some associated easements alongside with the application. Maybe we'll go through the actual slide deck. It seems not to be loading, but maybe if you would like, I could give you a more detailed presentation with regards to the context of the site. But in effect, the site is located on Coronation in Alta Vista. As I had mentioned, the parking lot is currently paved, uses parking for the tenants of the building. There is some vegetation on the site, but typically, or for the most part, located along the adjoining property lines and within the property itself. So the parking lot is where, or the paved area is where the new 10-unit apartment building would be located. I'll just go to the next. And you could see here the proposal. So to sever approximately 1,141 square meters from the total lot area to construct that new 10-unit low-rise apartment building. That includes 7 surface parking spaces. The retained parcel, as mentioned, and there's an error there, it should be a 31-unit apartment building with 21 surface parking spaces. No changes are proposed to this site access, and of course, the easements would be in relation to access egress, but also a accessory building that would contain waste management. And then, of course, reciprocal easements for the use of that building. Maybe we'll go to the next slide. Here's just a better look at what the draft reference plan looks like and those easements. I'm not going to describe in detail, but the information was before you as part of our submission. And maybe we'll again go through some of the next slides. Of course, the site is located in the outer urban transect, designated as neighborhood. So, the official plan policies really do speak to this type of development, gradual change in a context-sensitive development. So, bringing a low-rise development, of course, is permitted not only by the official plan policies, but the existing zoning. So maybe we'll go to the next slide, which describes the zoning. So here we are, of course, it's an R4 zone with some exceptions related to, amenity area, side yard setbacks, etc. The proposal will comply with all relevant zoning provisions, so we're not here to seek any variances to the bylaw. But really, we're here to have a greater discussion on some of the conditions that are being imposed by the city planning staff.
Okay. Thank you very much. So do you agree with those conditions, or are there several that you don't like?
There are a couple I have, well, I've had the chance to go back and forth with planning staff, so I have a better understanding of where they're coming from or what the intentions are. And I wish that maybe the language had been firmed up a little bit before coming to the hearing today. However, I have some greater comfort, I guess, for, servicing, et cetera. But there are still a couple of conditions that are of concern to me and feel that they should be potentially addressed later on at building permit.
Which conditions are they?
So if we go back to the presentation, I actually did list the conditions, and of course, we agree with cash and lieu of parkland and showing having independent services. These are all standard conditions, but specifically condition number 2. So this is requiring a limiting distance, so getting a qualified designer to, I guess, provide evidence that limiting distance will not be an issue along the proposed property line. And of course, it speaks to a building permit, and I would, think that this would be something they would seek out as part of the building permit application. They would be reviewing for compliance to the Ontario Building Code. So for that reason, I feel that this is maybe not the most appropriate time to ask for this condition. And then subsequent to that, condition number 3.
Before you move on that,
Yeah.
I'd just like to sort of understand the planning department's rationale for this.
Sure.
This particular condition, then we can go back and forth.
Mr. Chair, before we go to planning, can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
So you're talking about the building permit, but a building permit wouldn't be required for the existing building. And my interpretation of this is that it applies to the existing building complying with the zoning once it's severed, which would not have anything to do with the building permit for a new one. So can you help me understand this?
Correct, but I think, the distance to the property lines is about 5 meters, which actually, I'm pretty sure wouldn't require a limiting distance agreement by any stretch. So to me, it's actually kind of more of an irrelevant condition.
Perhaps. We do need to ask.
Okay.
planning.
So I'll ask planning for their comment with respect to this condition. Ms. Einkorn?
We've spoken with the building code services staff, and it is right that this condition refers to the existing building. And the reason that this condition is there is because previously the existing building was over 20 meters away from the property line, but now it's going to be only 5 meters away from the property line, which changes the Ontario Building Code requirements. And Building Code Services basically wants to ensure that the existing building will still be in compliance with the OBC after the severance. And a building permit may be required if building code staff find out that there needs to be some changes made to ensure compliance, but it will be done at the review of the condition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Baltz, on condition number 2?
No, I think I understand that it's a building code issue for the existing building.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Wright, any questions? Mr. Barrett, no questions on number 2. Okay, your next condition.
So I guess similarly, condition number 3, we feel should be addressed at building permit, seeking that the existing shed be relocated, because we're not actually proposing demolition of it, but relocated elsewhere on the property. Again, at this time, so I am joined by the owner who has no imminent plans for construction. So ideally, we would like to continue to operate the property and the site as it functions today. And, of course, we have to address all these conditions within a 2-year time frame in order for us to register the severance. We feel that this one would, could be pushed to building permit as well. I don't think it's a big issue to do so, but I will leave it to yourself to decide.
Well, we're going to see if the panel has any questions on this issue. Mr. Baltz?
The shed's an accessory building, correct?
It is an accessory, I believe that it's bicycle storage.
Yes, but it would be an accessory building. Is an accessory building permitted to be on a different lot than the principal building?
Well, in this instance, it's one lot for zoning purposes, so I would say yes.
Then we'll throw that to planning again because.
Well, we'll just, do you have any comment with respect to that, Ms. Ankran?
So an accessory structure is accessory to the principal dwelling. So right now, after the severance, we are creating a vacant lot, and the accessory building cannot be on a vacant lot, which will be zoning non-compliant. So that's the reason we have that condition. And the condition also says that it should be either demolished or relocated. That would address the intent of the applicant to move the existing shed to the to a different location.
Okay. Can that happen? Can you relocate that shed?
Yeah, I think that's the intention will be to relocate the shed. Absolutely. We just don't want to be tied to, the condition of severance, but if need be, we will adhere. But having said that, we feel that, again, this should be a building permit condition.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wright, do you have any questions? Mr. Barrett? Okay. And your next condition?
So we did receive a little bit more clarity on some of the conditions that we had some concerns with, and maybe there was a bit of loose wording, but similar to the previous applicant, I think it's really just related to now the noise study and the requirement for a development agreement. These development agreements, as you know, as Aaron O'Connell, the planner, had mentioned, these are taking a little bit more time than I guess anticipated, and we feel that tying this requirement to a development agreement, though may make sense for the city, we feel it should be addressed simply as providing proof that they have been registered on title, understanding, of course, that what Ms. O'Connell had mentioned, that people are removing these notices on title. I don't think that's the intent here. And of course, one of those actual notices relate to what would be actually, building code compliance. So having to provide for a central heating and cooling system like this, these are standard. And I think this is a requirement of the building code today. So I don't think there's any way around having to construct a new building without central heating and cooling to avoid the need to open your window and then, of course, have impacts from noise, which would be on Coronation as a collector. So this is just another instance where we feel that it's just an additional step to register the severance that would be unnecessary, or we'd be happy to work with planning staff to reword or rejig it so that the condition is just to provide proof that it was registered on title. We have no problems with what is said and to be registered on title, rather just the mechanism and the way to go about it.
Okay. Similar question to the previous application on this issue. How long has the building been up?
Might have to lean on the owner who's sitting beside me.
Early 50s.
Early 50s. Any difficulty leasing out the property?
No, we have a waiting list I'll have for years.
So no one has complained to you about noise in the neighborhood?
No.
Okay. Okay, now I'd like to ask Ms. Einkran, do you have any comments on this condition number 10?
Like Ms. O'Connell mentioned for the earlier application, the additional step in asking for a development agreement with the city is just to ensure that it is a promise with the city, and that the condition that the noise warning clause will stay on title and it will not be just added and then removed after the consent if it's done by the owner themselves. So we would like to keep the condition as is, and we require the development agreement.
Okay. Does the panel have any questions for Ms. Einkran? Mr. Baltz? Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright? I'd just like to ask Ms. O'Connell if she would agree that this condition is similar to the one on the previous application for 14 Colonnade, and that you would feel the same way?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, essentially. I think there's a distinction between the last application and this one. Being the last application, we had 2 existing office buildings. On this application, while there is an existing residential land use, we're also contemplating the creation of a new vacant lot, which would presumably, with all the plans, will include a residential land use on it. And so essentially the requirement is to put that notice on title through a development agreement for these future landowners who will be moving in here to tell them that they're moving into somewhere that's it may be noisy, basically close to them. So this is an instance where the land uses are more sensitive than the previous application.
Okay, thank you very much. There is one other condition requested by Hydro Ottawa that you relocate the overhead services. Are you in agreement with that as well?
So that wasn't actually listed as a condition as circulated to the applicant.
It came from Ottawa, Hydro Ottawa.
It came as a comment, but not as a condition. At least what I received from staff is it's not listed as a condition.
And you disagree with?
No,
this
I
request?
don't think so. I think there are certain conditions that likely should have found their way in there, and others, in my opinion, that probably we could do without. But I think we would agree that we would need to relocate the hydro, yes, as part of the new construction.
Okay, thank you.
But I haven't, for the record, I just haven't seen that condition as worded.
Okay. I just have here that relocation of overhead services was requested by the city of, by the Hydro Ottawa.
And typically that would translate into a condition as circulated to the owner and applicant, or?
I'm not sure. I'll ask Madam Secretary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, that would not be listed on the planning report. That only represents city conditions. It would just be in the comment directly from Hydro Ottawa.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'd like to ask, I guess, the planning staff if they have any further comments to make with respect to this application.
Can I take just one moment?
Sure. Sure. Mr. Barrett has a question for you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a question to clarify the 31 units. What size are the units in the sense of are they 1, 2, 3 bedroom units, or?
It's a mix of one.
Could you turn on your microphone, please?
It's a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. There are 18 2-bedrooms and 12 ones and 1 studio.
We'll just wait for Ms. Coran to. You have some further comment?
Maybe unrelated also. I'm just not sure if anyone's here, including folks who would have been circulated on the application. But we did as well, just for your information, provide our own notice. We did drop some letters into mailboxes in advance just to provide additional context and information to those neighbors. But they are well aware of the development proposal. So I'm not sure again if there are other
Yeah,
folks.
we have two people from the public that would like to make some comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as we get back from Ms. Coran, we'll
Sure.
get to those people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to clarify about condition number 3 about the accessory structure. I just read at the exception on the property, and the exception does say that the lots with that exception is 1 lot for zoning purposes. So it wouldn't create a zoning issue, and we are okay with removing that condition. And I have no further concerns.
Okay, thank you. There's one success.
We'll take them.
Okay, all right, so any further questions for planning staff? Mr. Barrett, that's right. Mr. Baltz?
One quick one. There was a comment, I believe, from forestry about tree impacts and a request for protection of critical root zones through the use of permeable surfacing for the parking. Can that be addressed?
I let my colleague, Mr. Alvarez Barkham, to comment on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez Barkham? Do you have?
Yes, thank you for the question. It was more of a advisory comment than anything, but given that we don't know the full extent of impacts, related to the proposed development. It's a suggestion to explore options to minimize the impacts to the critical root zones.
Mr. Welch?
Just ask whether the applicant can respond to that.
And this is in condition number.
Comments from planning. Not a condition.
It's a comment, yeah. Well, I guess at this time, we don't know whether we could be proposing permeable surfaces for the parking area. I would anticipate that, just to give you a bit more background, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, we did make application in 2020, 2021 for a zoning amendment and a site plan control application, at which time we did submit, of course, everything that needs to be submitted alongside a site plan control application, and that includes a tree information report. We went back and forth with staff, of course, on this requirement, because we did have one that may be dated, but we've agreed to update this report as part of the condition of approval. So I will say that the new proposal, the revised proposal, is much less impactful on the property. The building footprint is much smaller. So I would anticipate less ability to impact those trees and their critical root zones. That said, of course, I understand that trees grow and roots would also grow. So therefore, we have agreed to a revised tree information report. But another concern I had was in relation to the owner, Mr. Farrell, who's beside me, and having to do a third one and when we go back for building permit. And this is my concern, is that some of these things I feel should be pushed to building permit. Again, it's not going to be the hill that I die on, but I don't want the owner to have to do a third report that may come to the same conclusions. So fast forward to today, we have accepted the tree information report as a condition of approval, and we will update that assuming we get approval of the consent application.
Thank you. Okay, now I'd like to move on to the public. There are two persons registered to speak. I have Adrian Christie. Would you like to come down? There you are. So he's going to come over and sit beside you, sir. But yeah.
Hello.
Hello. You could state your name, only your last name if is required, and your address, please.
My name is Adrian Christie. I live at 1525 Botsford Street. That's an adjoining property beside the new development.
Okay. You have 5 minutes to discuss your
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to recognize and thank them for scaling back the plan somewhat, because it does make more sense than what we previously saw size-wise. However, I still have concerns about several aspects of the building going in, and I feel it's important to voice them now in case those concerns are reflected by the committee or by planning. The first of which was a quality of life and enjoyment of property concern, which we cited the first time. At the proximity that the building will be, we've measured it out, my dear neighbor and I, with a tape measure, and we can't see a way that the existing tree line is going to be preserved. And so there's essentially no existing coverage for our two properties. Beyond that, there's worries about the deletion of the trees, but that's a separate thing. Beyond that, there's currently a lot of usage of that green space area. First of all, there's two beautiful small community gardens. I also regularly see the inhabitants of 700 Coronation walking their dogs there, children playing there, playing ball, having barbecues and talking outside. And I feel as though it forms an essential recreation space and a bit of a green space that's local or residential to us, as opposed to the parks that are all on the other side of the neighborhood from us. There's also a little bit of an infrastructure concern in my mind with regards to the lack of sidewalks in our neighborhood and this auxiliary parking that seems to happen occasionally currently, where we will have cars parked on the side of our road because there's a bit of an overflow from the building beside us at 700 Coronation. Now, I wouldn't say the problem is too bad now, except that our pedestrians are forced to walk into the street around cars because of the lack of sidewalks. And occasionally, when there are cars on both sides, it does form a bottleneck and some iffy moments where cars are coming off Coronation a bit quicker and there's another car showing up. Unfortunately, they are adding parking in proportion to what's already there, clearly, but that will only increase the amount of overflow in proportion as well. And our street is the next most likely candidate to receive all of that parking. So I'm concerned that the existing infrastructure isn't suitable for the amount of congestion or parking space that might take. Actually, though, my biggest concern is about irrevocably changing the environment that's there. I really enjoy the small bit of wildlife, the fact that we have a line of trees in clutches along that property line. And it is much used by animals. Like, I would not be exaggerating to say that well over 100 animals use that space. We're talking squirrels, skunks, rabbits. I've seen moles, I've seen foxes, as well as several species of birds, some of which are migratory, including blue jays, which I believe are supposed to be protected by the Migratory Birds Act in terms of not disturbing their habitats or at least nests. And I am concerned that by making a change here, we cannot get this back, right? Once the construction starts, the trees in that area, I have my doubts about what's going to be preserved. I haven't had a chance to, in a detailed fashion, look over the new plan. But I'm concerned that we will lose the trees that we have there. We will lose the animals that we will have there. We will lose the recreational aspect of what is there. And it opens a bunch of questions on my side with regards to achieving any sort of privacy. I've had discussions with the owner before, and he was amenable to working out some sort of fence installation or whatnot. I guess details are to be revisited since the change. It's not for a lack of good intent. I understand their desire to make more use of their property, and I understand the City of Ottawa's impetus to address the housing issue that we are seeing across the country by approving more houses. My concern is that maybe there are too many factors here that we are looking to overlook or bypass in order to get this particular project through. And I'm really wondering if maybe planning staff came and spoke directly to the 2 or 3 adjoining houses and to the residents of that building, if they would not hear the same thing. Right now, we have 2 of the 3 adjoining properties present with a pretty deep level of concern, the ones who would be within the approximate space of the new building. And the only reason the third ones aren't there is they're in the process of moving out. And having spoke to them, part of it is the ongoing stress, perennial stress of revisiting this issue, anticipating construction, not knowing when it's going to happen, not knowing if you need to disclose or not disclose if you're selling your house. Property values also being a secondary concern, but still a very real one for us owners. So all in all, many concerns. And I would like to urge you guys to not simply vote yes, to perhaps do a bit more due diligence in following up with us and assessing the impacts of this on the local residents.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask the panel if they've got some questions. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions for the public? No. Ms. Wright? Mr. Baltz?
So this is a request or an application for severance. So many of the concerns that you were talking about would have to do with more with variances. I think if they were seeking to develop on a substandard lot, but this lot complies with the zoning. So I'm just wondering if you could talk to that, because all that we are considering here today is making 2 lots that comply with the zoning instead of 1. But it doesn't change the underlying zoning in your area in terms of setbacks and lot sizes.
Understood. With regards to that, I'm aware that this almost, to me, it's a continuation of the last step, and it's a continuation of the same project moving forward. And I'm potentially voicing the same opinions now as I was then. They might not be as relevant to the exact process that we're doing, but from my understanding, this is only increasing the number of zoning questions, including the zoning question about the existing structure on the property by making this severance. And also, just to add, I think it's a bit telling in the presentation that when we saw a picture of the building, we didn't see the ground floor level. because that's where you can really see how tight the space is. The new building is only partially going on the paved parking area. It mostly extends into the grass area, and the canopies of the trees already go out further than the proposed setback from the lot, let alone the root structures of those trees. So in my mind, this has a great impact on the existing ecosystem that's there, which I believe under Ottawa's own city planning guidelines would be designated as urban forest. And there is a plan to try and encourage and protect urban forest within our city. So maybe I'm at the wrong forum. I'm not super well versed in planning decisions. However, I do think that these are concerns relating to this project, and I'm trying to find an avenue to voice those.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your input. The
Thank
next
you.
person we would like to hear from is Sanjay Narayan. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming down. Okay, so Mr. McGilliot, you have the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess at this point, I would invite the neighbors to reach, I would have invited, or I did actually invite the neighbors to reach out to us to have a discussion about the revised proposal on this property. Had we moved forward with the site plan control application, we would have been before the committee for a severance at that point anyways. That said, we still do have, well, the site plan was at its final stages, and I will maybe painful for the owner, but he did go through an appeal on one of the neighbors on this property, and it was, well, it didn't actually make it to an actual hearing, but this has been a long time coming, and we feel that the proposal, of course, we're not here to seek any variances to the bylaw. We do feel it does meet the zoning requirements. It meets all the directives of the official plan. We feel it's good planning. Of course, it's intensification in an area that's been identified for intensification and infill. With respect to the owner, the neighbors' comments, we'd be happy to have further discussions, I would imagine, to address his concerns of, wildlife, et cetera. But we don't feel that these are enough to, I guess, reject the proposal, given what's before you today does meet all the policies. And we didn't go through, of course, all of the Planning Act requirements for severance, and we could, but I don't think at this point it would make any difference in the hearing. I think it's just good planning overall, and feel that we're open for further discussion with the neighbors. Maybe not in this forum.
Okay, thank you very much for your input too. I would like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve on this application. All those in favor to reserve, please raise your hands. The application will be reserved, and we'll give you our decision within 10 days.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. Our next, and I believe our final application today is application number 9 for 3970 Stonecrest Road. I'm looking for D and K Johnson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. My name is Dwight Johnson, 4360 Piperville Road in Gloucester.
Mr. Johnson, you want to give us a brief description of your application today?
Yes, what we're doing here is, this is an application, it's a panel 3 application that was approved in 2022. It's a 100-acre parcel severing off the existing house to be sold and severing off a vacant property, vacant 2-acre property, and to build a house on the remainder of the property, a retirement residence for the owner. We went through committee in 2022, fully approved with no objections. We started working on our conditions. We, of course, had our 2 years to work on our conditions. In June of 2020, In June of that year, 4 months before the lapse date, we had completed everything. Environmental impact studies, hydrogeological studies. Our plan was completed. Everything was done from our side. So it was handed to city legal staff to complete all of the agreements necessary, which has been a discussion today about the time involved in that. Through the 4 months that remained, I queried staff regularly on where we were with that. 10 days before lapse date, it was handed back to us. Our lawyers told us at the time they could not do the work in 10 days. The bank could not do the work they needed to do for a partial discharge within the 10 days. So here we are to see you again. So another application fee of $6,400 to come back just to get the time to complete the legal agreements.
Okay. Does the panel have any questions for the applicant, Mr. Barrett?
No, I don't.
Ms. Wright?
No, I don't.
Mr. Baltz? No. Okay. I'd like to ask planning if they have any questions or comments. Luke's
Yes.
online. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Just joining online. Sorry, Chair. No comments from us on this one.
Okay. Any questions or comments for planning staff, Mr. Barrett?
No, thank you.
Is right?
No.
Mr. Baltz?
Nothing.
I have just one question. There was a comment from one of the members of the public concerns over their grade of their property or of the property. Missing from your requested conditions is a grading and drainage plan. Should that be there?
So to clarify, I had just requested the conditions that had not been cleared previously from the application. So a grading and drainage plan was not amongst those. But understanding that the resident has some concerns with that, it is something that could be imposed if desired.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you agree with all the other conditions, Mr. Johnson?
I do. I have discussed them in the past with planning, and they are in place. They are in place because of the missing agreements that we have.
Right.
And so things will get cleared up. Yes, I am in agreement with the conditions.
Okay. Now, do you have a grading and drainage plan that was done in the past?
There's no grading and drainage plan at this time, but there was a full environmental impact study done. Keep in mind, we're talking about a 100-acre parcel here.
Yeah.
And so there was an environmental impact study done that tells us where the development can occur, where it cannot occur, and what we have to do to be in accordance with that EIS. My understanding from the owner is he has had a discussion with the neighbors. The chairman of panel 3 suggested that they have a discussion, and they did do that. My understanding was it was a productive discussion. They talked about the EIS and that sort of thing. I'm not sure if they are here today to speak, but my understanding was that was a productive meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now I'd like to see if there's any member of the public that would like to make a presentation, either here or online. No, no one from the public would like to speak. Therefore, I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to adjourn this application, not adjourn, excuse me, reserve the application. All those in favor of reserve? Your application will be reserved, sir, and we'll give you our answer in about 10 days. Thank you very much. That concludes our hearing for today. Thank you all very much for your input, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.